Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and here we are with episode 4 of The Mandalorian. Now, Mandalorian is a TV show, and TV shows generally require a bit of filler because you can't keep the plot going all the time. And this is definitely a filler episode, and is by far the weakest shown so far. And it's weak not because it's poorly executed, but because it's, well, lacking in imagination. So, after the epic escape from random desert planet, the Mandalorian decides to go to a random medieval planet because budget. Random medieval planet is basically a forest, probably in Canada, and the locals are being menaced by some foul Xenos. As you would expect, the Mandalorian decides to step up and fight the foul Xenos alongside the now fan-nicknamed Thick Trooper, which is basically a female rebellion spec-ops trooper. She has a decent personality, but she's pretty much nothing you haven't already seen before a million times. As you would expect, the Mandalorian is initially reluctant to fight against the random Xenos, but comes around and decides to help the locals fight. They do the typical training stuff, right down to the bloody stick fighting. And then the conclusion to the episode is, at the very least, visually interesting, but still very generic. The Mandalorian and the Thick Trooper decide to go into the Foul Xenos base camp, and they decide to blow up a few things, and then eventually run back to the locals' encampment. And then an ATST appears. The ATST looks okay, but acts more like a random monster. Not particularly interesting all around. Of course, they destroy it quite easily by luring it into a pit trap. And then after this, the Mandalorian, of course, leaves and walks off into the sunset. Yeah, this episode is so generic, it's not even funny. It still works, it's not woke or anything like that. It's just really, really disappointing and really generic. There's a few annoying lines here and there. Most notably that the Mandalorian never shows its face to anyone, which really wasn't part of the whole Mandalorian concept as a whole. Originally, only Boba Fett didn't take his helm off, and he only did that because he didn't want to see his dead father's face when he looked into a mirror. The Thick Trooper, being a member of the rebellion, is cool, but we never get really any expansion on this concept. Now, if this TV show were actually based in the EU, it would be kind of cool if she was part of Pash Kraken's commandos, but of course they don't exist, so that doesn't matter. The worst line by far in the entire show is that the ATST is capable of taking on battalions of soldiers. Anytime a scout walker can take on battalions of soldiers, you've either got a really OP walker or you've got a really poor commander that would make a Warhammer 40k commander look positively competent in comparison. Really, the ATST walker is not meant to be particularly powerful because it's meant to be a scout walker. But that, of course, is only a minor nitpick. The Scout Walker barely does anything and is ultimately worthless. Overall, I would like to see more plot. I would like to have seen this episode add to the plot a little bit more. As it is, it just is a standard one-off generic filler episode that comes and goes, and I'm so glad it's gone. So with that, I am GeneralLotz, and we're going to move on to episode 5. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and if you can, please consider supporting me on Patreon so that I can continue bringing you this awesome content.